Hello, guys, and welcome back to Chris Baraka and family. So, in this video, I want us to analyze just some words from Prophet Lovy Elias, where he's talking about his foundation in ministry and what he picked and learned the pattern of Prophet TB Joshua. So there's a very short snippet that I'll be playing for you where he's just confirming that. But also, what is actually very shocking is an expose that is done by Sile, who was featured on a podcast by Prof X. And she's talking about some very fresh new details that were not featured in the BBC expose that was about TB Joshua. So we are going to be connecting some of the things that she's saying, because, and just have a look at even the allegations against Prophet Lovy Elias, and just having a look at what he's saying about the foundation of his ministry, because foundation is very important. Foundation is not very important and should not be ignored, because that's there's a lot of learning there. How the building will actually turn up, whether the building will stand or fall, depends on the foundation. Foundation determines everything in terms of the size, in terms of the space, in terms of foundation is the key thing. So he's talking about his foundation in ministry, and we're just gonna be analyzing this clip. So let's get into it. And before I forget, if it's your first time coming across the platform or you've just been watching the videos but you've never subscribed, subscribe right now. Click on that subscribe button. Click it right now, and don't forget to like the video. One of the advantages things when you like the video, what you're doing is that you are allowing YouTube to actually recommend this video to many more. And in a way, you will also be partnering with opening people's eyes, because these are very eye-opening exposés. They are very eye-opening. There is no, at any time you click any video in this channel or in this platform, I'm telling you, definitely your eyes will be open, because there's a lot of things that are going on. There's so much that is going on, and we have to be very careful. So let us get into this video. Let's start first of all with this snippet.
When I was growing up, I didn't know anything about Prophet TB Joshua. I'd never seen that man. I actually saw that man when I came here around 2006, 2007. Actually, 2007, 2008 is when I became aware of him. But I didn't know him before. But everything that I was already doing was very similar to this guy. The only difference between me and him was the prophetic and how it manifested. That was the main major difference in terms of how we ministered and how we taught. But the manifestation of God's power, the way he delivered people, the way he ministered to people, was exactly the same. And it kind of scared me when I saw him the first time. And then I realized, no, there is a pattern to be studied here on how this man worked, on how this guy moved, and how he did things that can be an asset to me. Now, did I take everything? Absolutely not. But the major things that cause the ministry to move the way it should move and for me to be effective in serving God, I 100% was inspired by him, because there was no one else I could look at that did the same thing that I was doing, especially not here. You know, in Africa, there's a lot of deliverance ministries, but not everyone was like this man. Most of them fast for this amount of days, then we're going to do this. There are people who can cast out devils, but this guy was just different. So in my comprehension, anything that you need to have a mirror, and you have to be able to look at the mirror and see how your future is dressed like, so that you can start preparing yourself to dress that way.
So he picked things that were more accustomed to ministry growth. So he picked the patterns and everything. That is what Prophet Lovi is saying. And he's saying he never picked everything because he was just asking himself and saying, did I pick everything? He's saying, no, I didn't pick everything. I just picked what was related to ministry growth and everything. So the question is, what exactly led to the growth of Prophet TB Joshua's ministry? What exactly led to that growth? So the lady you can see on the screen right there is called Sile. She was featured on the BBC documentary. And probably like less than a week after the documentary was aired, actually, she lost her daughter. And I saw even some reactions from different men of God, and they were saying, touch not my anointed, touch not my anointed. So people felt like that's just punishment and everything. So she's also addressing that as well, and she's speaking about it because it was quite a hard moment for her. But she's giving a very fresh, shocking revelations about some very deep thing that were happening in that camp that led actually to the prosperity of that ministry. So let us have a look at it.
Thank God I'm alive to tell my story. This year it was actually the 1 year anniversary of the BBC documentary on the 8th of January. And yeah, and I always say to people, thank God we live to tell our story, you know. I mean, I was the first Black South African girl to stay at the Synagogue Church of All Nations at TB Joshua's church. So I remember the first time I was called up to 5-story. I think, remember, first they groom you. So you need to learn, number one, lack of sleep deprivation. Now, what people don't know is lack of sleep leads to hallucination, leads to exhaustion, because you can't sleep until daddy has fallen asleep. You always have to be on your feet. Anytime the whistle will blow and they'll say disciple meeting, you can't be late for disciple meeting. And that's when they start reporting and telling on people and everything like that. So you already know you're being groomed. So the first time, so you sleep deprived, you're living in fear because you've already witnessed him manhandle and beat people around him. Number three, you're always on the go. You cannot just be standing and not doing anything. You must always look busy. So the first time I was called to 5-story, I was told Sister Siklet Daddy's calling you. And I remember this so perfectly that Sister Pisola is the one that arranged that I should go to 5-story. And I was told specifically which entrance to use. Sister Siklet, you must come up this way. So not knowing that as you're going up, somebody's coming down, because there were different points of entrances. And I speak about it on the BBC documentary to say the first day I went in there, you enter there, there's a small door, you have to go on your knees and you enter there. When you enter, his bedroom is pure white, like everything is white. And I remember entering there, there's an office, then you into the parlor. And when you enter there, immediately just turned around. But you can feel that there's this deeper presence. He wasn't himself anymore. And he just turned around and said, oh yeah, take off your pants. Just like that. But now you can't say no. There's this deeper, it's no longer him. There's this deeper force now where you have to submit.
Wait a minute. What do you mean take off your pants? No conversation, no any
nothing. Go and watch the documentary. You will realize, and here's the funny thing, most of us are in our 40s now, and this happened to us about 20 years, 15 years ago. And for the first time when we did the BBC documentary, because remember, BBC was investigating this before he died. Now, people are saying, why are they speaking after he died? Which is a lie, because he knew very well that the BBC was onto him and the BBC did give him a right of reply. Then suddenly, when we are about to go live, he suddenly passes on. But anyways, so he then says, take off your pants. And now you're in a state of shock. Take off my pants. Because I had about 3 abortions at the synagogue. And people who lack understanding, or people who listen to respond, will say, this girl seduced men of God. Da, da, da. They don't understand that you go through a process of grooming where it ends up being a lifestyle. It ends up being a normality in the environment that you're in. And one thing he would tell us would be, once he's had his way with you, that's a lifetime covenant that no man will be, basically you're married to him in the spiritual realm. So many girls, I tell you now, most of the choristers, I was in the choristers when I was there. Some of the sisters now don't have wombs. They can't have children because of the multiple abortions that they were subjected to in the church. Ask yourself, why is it that when he passed on, people all of a sudden ran and got married? Everyone just, there was people from synagogue were just getting married left, right, and center because he said that curse would break once he passes on. And phew, like for me, Temi Tokbe's experience really deterred and altered my life because that is why for me, I always say to parents, if you're in a church that is about being close to the man of God and that status quo and your child is more loved than anybody else, run, because that's where everything just becomes distorted. And last year, 8 January, when the documentary dropped, 3 days later, my daughter passed on. And I had the whole people were saying, yeah, touch not my anointed. It's because she messed with the man of God and God is punishing her, bloody blue, bloody blah, bloody blah. Thank God for technology and thank God for autopsies, because we had an autopsy done and my daughter passed away from a ruptured brain aneurysm. And now, if you research about it, a ruptured brain aneurysm is genetical. And from the autopsy, it picked up that it was genetical from her father's side of the family. And now, this is when I realized that all those who claim to be Christians, all those who claim to love God, actually are not Christians, because I've lost a child and you are saying, yeah, the God of TB Joshua is punishing you. Touch not my anointed. And the fact that I'm still standing a year later, and it was a 1-year anniversary of my daughter's death, 1-year anniversary of the documentary, that just shows that there is a God. Because for me, do I believe Temi Tokbe is dead? No, I don't. Because what people don't understand is we know that when the documentary was being done, the documentary started being done, I think 4 or 5 years before he passed on. Because remember, the BBC does intensive investigation. And for them to actually find us one by one, I was even shocked when BBC reached out to me. They said to me, no, we've been seeing you talking about, because I started speaking about my church trauma long time ago when I left. And when they said to me, we want to talk to you, this was like 4 or 5 years before Temi Tokbe passed on. And when they gave him the right of reply, all of a sudden that man dies. I remember BBC reached out to me to say, are you okay? He's passed on, da da da. I actually laughed and I was like, I actually want to watch this funeral. And when I saw the glass coffin, I was like, a statue. My mind just said, this is a statue. I don't believe it's him. And when I saw that when they finally buried him, it was no longer a glass coffin, it was that box coffin, and it was buried in the church. I was like, yeah, right. So whether he's dead or not, chances are he's probably somewhere abroad eating his billions and living a new life and enjoying himself. I don't know. But the bottom line is, whatever rituals he did, he's now transferred or taught his wife, because now she's doing the exact same thing that he did. I think for Temi Tokbe, it was about, if it's not, it was blood, sex, and taking people's luck. It's just very diabolical. I mean, that's why I say I thank God I came out of it. That is why I just go to a normal church now, a church that starts at 10 and I'm out by 1, and that is it. If you're going to say to me, I've got a prophecy, prophesy, Papa, I run. I ran because automatically I know what comes after that. You know, I see these scams from a mile away. I can enter a church now, and when the prophet starts his nonsense, I already know that it's going down. This is what's happening. And people must be careful. Most of these men, they'll be surrounded by young, beautiful girls who will be their ushers, who will be their whatever, some young boys. And these, you'll find that these are the young boys and the young girls that they sleep with.
Only an example.
Wow. Yeah, a lot is being shared right there. So just to go through some of the key things that she's talking about. First of all, she's speaking about TB Joshua faking death. There's been that speculation, by the way. Probably on another video we'll get in depth of that and just have a look at it. But just from the ground level, the truth is, over the years, if you've done your research, even different celebrities, people do fake deaths. Sometimes people fake deaths. For example, if it's about an insurance policy, they want the family to be able to enjoy such a policy and etc. And some of these things are actually these are things that get you actually behind bars. Like they're different stories. If you just check them online, you'll be able to see. So death faking is very possible, and people do these things. These are things that are there, and this is also just for the prophets who are, or even the pastors and apostles who are always just like, there's no ministry in God's word, like an expose ministry. You know, they are always just very much against them being exposed. So you'll find in their preachings, they're always preaching about, you know, there's nothing like an expose ministry. God did not call us to expose, so we are not supposed to be exposing and everything. Why are they afraid? Why are they feeding such kind of information to their followers? Yet, in truth, there are scriptures that speak about exposing. And some of these exposés, you might think that these are just man-made or just people's ambition, but rather you can be very shocked just to find out that actually God is the one behind this exposé. Like right now, there's just that wave that all of a sudden this man of God is being exposed here, this man of God, this woman of God is being exposed. And some people will try and feed you some kind of information and say that, you know, this is just the devil's work. No, it's not the devil's work. There's no way that the devil can be exposing evil. Why should the devil be exposing evil and telling you that, hey, this is evil? Why should the devil be the one in charge of doing that? Why should the devil be exposing men of God who are sleeping with children and saying that this is not the right way, this is not biblical? Can the devil do that? That's against what the devil stands for. But definitely when light shines, darkness is always exposed. And they know this very well. So there are these ministers who are always they are always against exposés. So probably with whatever that Prophet TB Joshua could have built, probably maybe, according to the allegations, maybe it's a fake death. Because at the end of the day, he was actually buried in the church. He was buried in the church. Why was he buried in the church? So many questions. He was buried right there at the synagogue. So something else that's Celia has spoken about is about her daughter's death. When her daughter passed on, I remember so many people were writing and saying that, hey, you know, touch not my anointed. Now it's when those scriptures actually got life. So you've just heard her speaking about that as well, but probably then again, we might get just to go in depth about it as well and have a look, because there are so many different ministers who spoke about it as well. So there are 3 things that she has laid down, probably 3 to 4, just on the foundation, or rather what exactly, according to her, what that ministry stood for, or what was just behind the scenes that people didn't know, but that was like the basis of that ministry. Because she's spoken about grooming, she's spoken about blood, she's spoken about sex and taking of people's luck. Grooming, blood, sex, and taking of people's luck. So in the back of your mind, just have that. Because in the back of your mind, have that. And then just let's rewatch this clip again.
When I was growing up, I didn't know anything about Prophet TB Joshua. I'd never seen that man. I actually saw that man when I came here around 2006, 2007. Actually, 2007, 2008 is when I became aware of him. But I didn't know him before. But everything that I was already doing was very similar to this guy. The only difference between me and him was a prophetic and how it manifested. That was the main major difference in terms of how we ministered and how we taught. But the manifestation of God's power, the way he delivered people, the way he ministered to people, was exactly the same. And it kind of scared me when I saw him the first time. And then I realized, no, there is a pattern to be studied here on how this man worked, on how this guy moved, and how he did things that can be an asset to me. Now, did I take everything? Absolutely not. But the major things that cause the ministry to move the way it should move and for me to be effective in serving God, I 100% was inspired by him. Because
100% inspired by Prophet TB Joshua. So we'll be analyzing bit by bit about this statement, because it's quite a huge statement, depending with whatever angle that you look at it from. Depending with whatever angle that you look at it from. Even the Papa and prophesy ministry, probably that as well, he picked it from Prophet TB Joshua, because that was also a thing right there. That was also a thing right there. So he said he picked some things, but especially things that concern ministry, he's saying that he picked 100%. 100% of these things. So we'll also be looking at how exactly did Prophet TB Joshua do his prophecies. Because I'm telling you, if you understand the foundation, probably you'll start to understand some of these allegations that have been brought up. Some of these allegations that have just been brought up. So this is just my own opinion, but I know foundation is a very key thing if you want to understand the structure. But this is just my opinion. I'd like to hear what you think about it before we get to go in depth and also look at prophecy. There are so many different angles I want to look. This is all guided by that snippet you've heard from Prophet Lovi, his foundation. We just want us to try and understand these things. Just try and understand these things. So subscribe if you haven't, like the video so that YouTube can be able to share these to many more. Let people see these videos. So just by clicking on the like, you are actually activating that. So subscribe, like the video, and let me know on the comment section what you think about it. Should we proceed? Yeah, should we proceed? Let me know. Make sure you drop a comment. If you have nothing much to say, just say proceed. Thank you, guys.